Hello and welcome again to Strange Journeys, Season 6 of Strange Journeys. This certain farmer, was digging a new drainage ditch on his farm on the backside of his property that he'd never really worked that area that much. Gets down about 5 feet and the shovel hits something solid. He's thinking he's hit a rock. But as he works the dirt, he begins to realize that this is no rock. What he digs out confuses him. He has no idea what he has found. He picks it up to examine it, and the mystery just deepens. The farmer takes it home, and his family encourages him to take it to the local university, and they'll be able to tell him what he's found. However, the professors and the scientists, they're just as confused as he is. This item should not exist. It is too old to have been found where the farmer said it had been. He must be making up the story. Consternation and confusion abounds as the controversy surrounding this strange object grows. Join our strange journey into the world of out of place artifacts, or OopArts.
Do you want to take a trip with you, Ghost Host Tom and Ghost Guy Tim, and the executive team, Andrea, Ben, Dagny, Donnie, Lewis, Lynn, Selena and Tom. Are you ready? Here we go.
Yes, are you ready?
I love it.
You like our new intro?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's been progressing each season, I don't think
It's adapting with us.
Yes. Season 4 didn't have a new intro because of stuff I was going through, but anyway, we got a new one on season 5, and now we've got a brand new one on season 6. Dagny is back with us. Hey, Dagny.
Hey, guys.
She's one of our ETs. You saw her in the intro.
Yeah, my picture came up.
Yeah. And some English dude said your name.
Yeah, that English guy. I don't know him.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Lynn said, hello, Dagny.
Hey. Hi, Lynn.
Anyway, and I'm Tom, your ghost host, and we are here for you. Remember that we provide these shows first and foremost for you, the watchers, for your entertainment. We are not by any means scholars or experts in any of the topics we cover, especially today. I don't think there is an expert in OopArts at all, anywhere.
Maybe God?
Maybe. But we're simply enthusiasts and storytellers who have fun with these topics while doing our best to respect any individual beliefs. And please remember, this show is live and nothing is rehearsed or edited out later. What you see is what you get. And remember, you can support us. I took that off. You can support us at Patreon, PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. Links are in the description. So if you can help us out there, we would certainly appreciate it. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, you know what to do.
Click that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Like and subscribe to all these videos that Papa Tom made. Hit that notification bell up. My work here is done now.
That's right. You heard him. And what is it, Dagny?
Like and subscribe.
What was that? I shared some little meme to our group about the werewolf doing a podcast or doing a show on YouTube, and his name was Like and Subscribe.
Ah, nice.
LYCAN, like and subscribe. All right. Also, remember that in the next few days, this show will be available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora, and iHeartRadio. And also, because of that, we're not going to be showing as many pictures as we normally do because most of those platforms are audio only. But we do appreciate you being with us. And And if you've been watching any length of time, you see I got some new gear. I got one of the fancy boom mics,
You're set up.
and it's also got some.
Nice. Is there a cat?
Huh?
Is there a cat?
No.
Lucy heard me say that.
Uh-oh. Oh, there's all kind of fun stuff. I think it's from China. Yeah, there's all kind of stuff. So if you do something good, I could cheer for you.
Cool.
I mean, we could have used this in the past seasons.
This will be fun.
All kind of stuff. All right. One of the reasons we did a new intro, I shortened it, if you noticed that, because I have been real antsy since we started the show about. Well, at first I was just wanting to add all kind of stuff in, and then as we got into it, I realized that it would be 30 or 40 minutes before we would actually get to the topic of the show. So I've started over time whittling all that down so we can get into it quicker. See, like we've only been on the air 6 minutes, and we're ready to go into the show.
Let's do it.
That's my goal. And we are talking OopArts today, out of place artifacts. Wikipedia defines it as an artifact of historical, archaeological, or paleontological. I'm getting tongue tied.
Yeah.
Paleontological interest found in an unusual context, which challenges conventional historical chronology by its presence in that context. Such artifacts may appear too advanced for the technology known to have existed at the time, or suggest human presence at a time before humans are known to have existed. Other examples may suggest contact between different cultures that is hard to account for with conventional historical understanding. In other words, like I've said before, these should not exist. I mean, you'll see in some of the examples, but where Wikipedia says it challenges conventional historical chronology by its mere presence in that context. We're going to see some of those today. This was found. That reminds me, one that Selena found for us, which Selena had a wreck this week, and she's trying to. I mean, she's okay. She's a little banged up, but she's working on getting her vehicle replaced, and that got her tied up today. But this one that she found, I'm going to go all the way to the end where she put it in our notes, because that just reminded me. A man named John Buchanan in Scotland presented a mysterious object to a meeting of the Society of Antiquaries in Scotland. A drill bit has been found encapsulated in coal about 22 inches thick. Now, it was buried in a bed of clay mixed with boulders about 7 foot thick. The Earth's coal is said to have been formed hundreds of millions of years ago. The society decided the instrument was a modern level of advancement. Now, how does that happen? They found this drill bit embedded in coal. That's what's freaky. And the coal was formed hundreds of millions of years ago. So how did a drill bit get down in the coal and the coal to form around it? That's what we're talking about today.
I'm starting to question carbon dating.
Well, I mean, the carbon dating is been controversial since the beginning anyway, but one thing that people don't realize is there's got to be carbon there for it to date.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, but I'm starting to question how accurate we are with it.
True. I mean, that's the thing. That's our standard of measurement right now. But like some of these, not have any coal. I mean, there may not even be any carbon for them to date, but it's the things around it that
the coal had to be produced. Yeah.
Like that coal forming around a drill bit.
Or the doorknobs. There was a case where there were doorknobs in the same situation.
Right. Well, that brings up something that Len and I were talking about earlier. The ancient Egyptian hieroglyph that looks like a helicopter.
That's cool.
You've seen that one?
Yeah.
But the thing that bothers me about it is when they drew that on that wall, they weren't painting a helicopter. We look at it from our perspective and we see a helicopter. Now, I don't know what they saw, but they weren't doing a helicopter. I mean, I guarantee you, this is something I think we can stand for sure on. They didn't have helicopters like we have helicopters.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had a flying machine that was similar, it wasn't like ours. You know, I'm going to save my suppositions till the end because I, I, it's not as way out there as people think, but I do like Graham Hancock, and that'll give you a little hint as to what my supposition is on this.
I like Graham Hancock. I like what he's doing.
Well, Lynn agrees with you. She said things don't add up. I know I don't trust carbon dating. But
we have no better way to measure
well,
this.
yeah, at this point in time, that's what we've got. Keep forgetting to take those off. Okay. I've got a list. Tim put some on here. Selena put some on here. Dagny's got a list. And so we're going to mishmash our way through these because Dagny was having some technical difficulties this week and wasn't able to add hers to the outline. But we did go through and make sure she didn't duplicate any of these. But the one that, to me, I picked as my first one is the one, probably the very first one I saw and heard somebody talk about it. I don't remember who I was talking to at the time or what show I was watching, but it's the London Hammer. In June of 1936, Max Hahn and his wife Emma were on a walk when they noticed a rock with wood protruding from its core. They decided to take the oddity home and later cracked it open with a hammer and a chisel. Ironically, what they found within seemed to be an archaic hammer of sorts. A team of archaeologists checked it out, and as it turns out, the rock encasing the hammer was dated back more than 400 million years. Wow. The hammer itself turned out to be more than 500 years old, 500 million years old. Additionally, a section of the handle has begun to transform into coal.
Wow.
That's how old it is.
Wow.
The wooden handle that's through this hammerhead
Is starting
what
to.
is about a foot long, maybe
Wow.
maybe an inch and a half square, something like that, and got a wood handle protruding from it, just like we make hammers. But I don't know. But the hammer's head is made of more than 96.6% iron, is far more pure than anything found in nature. Observers have noted that the hammer is stylistically consistent with typical American tools manufactured in the region. In the late 1800s, its design is consistent with a miner's hammer. One possible explanation for the rock containing the artifact is that the highly soluble minerals in the ancient limestone may have formed a concretion around the object through a common process which often creates similar incrustations around fossils and other nuclei. The London Hammer is now an exhibit in Ball's Creation Evidence Museum, which sells replicas of it to its users, the visitors.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
That's a good question. And Lynn was commenting, you don't want me to get on my soapbox yet, so.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I mean, I kind of sort of base the cold opening on this story, but there have been other stories similar to that where somebody finds something, you know. But the fact that, well, like we mentioned about the coal earlier with the drill bit, it takes hundreds of millions of years to create coal, for coal to be formed. And this hammer, the handle was starting the process to turn into coal.
That's kind of how do you argue that with time?
Well, like I said, I've got my theories, but we'll go over that at the end. Dagny, give us your first one.
All right. I was I'm really fascinated by Saqqara, Egypt. They discovered a tomb there, the Pad di Emen tomb, in 1898. And a lot of the things that they found there are very interesting. But one of the things that I was really fascinated with was this, it's a replica of a glider, like an airplane. And we've never found any existence of the Egyptians flying so
Right.
far, as far as crafts, but a lot of these tombs throughout Egypt, they keep finding crafts, miniature crafts of boats
Mm-hmm.
or things like that, things that the pharaohs liked to travel in, or what they
Right.
assume. And this one had an airplane type thing, and no, they tested it to see if maybe it was a replica, a toy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it can work like a plane. So they took it to a wind tunnel. They tested it. And they said, no way, this thing doesn't fly. But then a few
Is that
years
the one
later,
that was they added the tail rudder on it?
yeah,
I'm sorry,
many
I
years
didn't-
later, someone said, I don't believe you. And they tested it again, and it actually produces 4 times its weight in lift in the certain way that it's created. It is made to fly, whether or not it ever flew, or if it's just,
Mhm.
you know, uh, to look like something else, like a toy. Or they definitely said it is engineered to be flying, and that that little tail part that's missing would make it definitely fly.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's I know that mainstream archaeologists, and that's a term that's becoming almost anathema around. And
yeah,
mainstream archaeologists, ooh, don't they mean? But they have said that was a model of a bird. But the thing is, in the Egyptian hieroglyphs, there's pictures of birds, and this looks nothing like the other pictures that they've drawn. So,
and it's the fact that they did one single wing that
right,
makes
all the way
this.
across.
Yeah, it's not just, you don't just accidentally do that.
No, and it's aerodynamic in its shape.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about it. And these guys, uh, they took that one. They did have put the stabilizer uh, thing up on the back end of it, and they made the glider, and it flew perfectly.
Yep.
And then some of these that they found there, they've actually built scale models and put engines on them and flew them as a remote control airplane, a radio airplane.
Supposedly that tail section that's missing was stolen at one point, and they find it kind of amusing now that they didn't steal the whole piece. They just stole that one piece.
I don't know, maybe it had a big diamond jewel on it or
I bet.
something. I mean, to me, the pictures I've seen of it, it looks like that is broken. It looks broken
Oh
there,
yeah.
where that uh, stabilizer pin should be. So that one is amazing. I love that one.
A
And
lot of the finds at that site were very interesting.
yes, all right, I'm gonna go grab one of Selena's next ones. The 1.8 billion year old nuclear reactor. In 1972, a French factory imported uranium ore from Oklo in Africa's Gabon Republic. However, the uranium had already been extracted. They found the site of origin to have apparently functioned as a large scale nuclear reactor that came into being nearly 1.8 billion years ago and was in operation for over 500,000 years. I mean, that's just mind boggling to me. Dr. Glenn Seaborg, former head of the United States Atomic Energy Commission and a Nobel Prize winner, believes this was not a natural phenomenon. Instead, it was a man made nuclear reactor. He also stated that for uranium to burn in a reaction, very precise conditions are needed. Isn't that wild? I've seen stories on this one too.
So it means that other technology had to have been present.
Yeah, I mean, if they're mining uranium and building a reactor, you know,
Yeah.
they obviously knew what they were doing. This was not an accident. You know, I mean, I'm no nuclear physicist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that uranium in its natural state is inert. It's only until you extract it,
You got to
and
make it work.
yeah, you got to break it down. You know, I mean, they tested splitting atoms and they tried all these different ones, and they found uranium had the strongest reaction, I guess. And so, you know, for this to have happened 1.8 billion years ago, something was going on. Something. Hey, I'm gonna pull in one of Tim's here now.
All right.
Tim brought this one to us. Now, this one flies in the face of Columbus, which,
Oh,
yeah, I the more I research, the more I can't stand Columbus.
the poor guys.
I said that out loud. I'm sorry.
That poor guy, like, he's become a joke to people.
I know it. And Lynn says, I want to know what scale carbon dating uses and how they can prove its accuracy. I mean, I don't know. They've got stuff.
It's a really long answer.
Yeah,
It's a
and I don't
chemistry.
know it. Yeah, it's a chemistry thing. But anyway, I was saying the more I learn about Columbus, the less I like him, and I said that out loud because I don't care anymore. I don't celebrate Columbus Day. I don't think it should be recognized as a holiday. I mean, Columbus, yeah, he sailed the ocean blue in 1492 in the Nina the Pinta de Santa Maria. But number one, he never came to the continental U.S. And number two, there were people here already. There was a civilization on this continent before any Europeans arrived. And
Obvi-
three, Columbus was a tyrant and just an all around evil person, from what I've learned. I just, mm. And we made him a hero and named a, a holiday after him. And they even use him in archaeology, pre Columbian.
the history that we have chosen to accept is very strange.
Well, that's the thing. I don't.
Yeah.
There's a book out there called "The Lies My Teacher Told Me." It's very good. It highlights some of this stuff about Columbus that I'm learning, that I've been learning. It's a good book to have. "The Lies My Teacher." I can't remember who wrote it now, but anyway, this one, the Maine penny, and that's Maine, is in the state of Maine. We all know that according to history, Columbus discovered America. That's what they want us to believe. However, science and artifacts around the United States continue to show. Yeah, Lynn said he was an evil man. Uh, Science and artifacts around the United States continue to show that he was not the first European on the continent. However, historians continue to discount the evidence that can be found across the United States and Canada. One such is this penny. Amateur archaeologist Guy Melgren discovered the artifact while conducting a private deer near Brooklyn, Maine in 1974. What's left of the coin can be identified as a Norwegian coin from the reign of Olaf Kyrre, who ruled from 1067 to 1093 AD, although some historians currently dispute even the date of his ruling in Norway. It looks, by the way, it looks it's deteriorated, um, so it seems that it may have had a hole in it and be worn as a pendant. What makes this so interesting is the dig site, now referred to as the Goddard dig site, is a Native American site that has now been completely excavated. More than 30,000 artifacts were pulled from the ground and donated to the Maine State Museum. The only artifact that was not Native American in origin, is the Maine penny. Oh, wow. I mean, naysayers and skeptics will say, oh, somebody, one of the pilgrims had it, and wore it as a pendant. But but it was found in the ground in an archaeological dig site. So who knows?
Someone got it to the Native Americans.
Someone, yeah, it was either uh, given to the Native Americans at some point,
Or
or
they found it, or
they found it. Something.
but whoever had it was there in that area at
Hmm.
some point.
They dropped it. Now, like I said, that one can be disputed. It's a single coin. Whoop-dee. They were making coins during that time. Yes, we know. But the thing that makes this an OopArt is that it should not be there. This was supposedly before Columbus discovered America, so it should not exist. It shouldn't be there. The next is one of my favorites. And if I can say this, if I can pronounce it correct, the Antikythera mechanism. Now, what the picture I'm showing is a computer model of what it looks like, of what it would look like in perfect operating condition. What they found was just, well, let me read it. Uh, it's da, 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 da. It was found on May 17th, 1902, off the Greek island Antikythera, in 1901. It was in a shipwreck, and the device housed in the remains of a wooden framed case. Its overall size is just 13.4 inches by 7.1 by 3.5 inches. It was found as one lump, later separated into three main fragments, which are now divided into 82 separate fragments. Four of these fragments contain gears, while inscriptions are found on many others. The largest gear is approximately 13 centimeters, a little over 5 inches in diameter, and originally had 223 teeth. Wow. Now, this wreck, where's it at here? Uh, the initial, let's see, it, the instrument is believed to have been designed and constructed by Greek scientists and has been dated to about 87 BC, between 150 to 100 BC, or 205 BC. It must have been constructed before the shipwreck. Obviously, it was on the ship before it wrecked.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, um, then let's see, where was I at? Which has been dated by multiple lines of evidence to approximately 70 to 60 BC, is when somewhere in there is when the ship sank. In 2022, researchers proposed its initial calibration date, not its construction date. It could have been uh, around 178 BC. Other
Gee.
experts proposed 204 BC. Uh, Machines with similar complexity did not appear again until the astronomical clocks of Richard of Wallingford in the 14th century. All known fragments of the mechanism are now kept at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, with artistic reconstructions and replicas to demonstrate how it may have looked and worked. They think it may have been a solar calendar type of thing for use in navigation. But look at the intricate. Well, if you're listening on Spotify or Pandora or iHeart, in these places you can't see it, but the intricacy of the gear mechanism inside that thing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like a Swiss clock.
and the more you read about it, the more detailed it'll tell you. Each one of those uh, gears has specific numbers of
Mhm.
teeth for that they can only guess
Yeah.
are used for things, but it basically it's a computer.
Yes, it's actually been called the world's first analog computer, but because it's not digital, it analog means it uses mechanical devices in that sense. Just like I said, a Swiss watch. It's got all the gears and the levers, and things like that inside it. So that's what it looks like to me, is the inside of a watch.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. and it was supposedly used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. I mean, they have actually gotten working models now, for what it does, and that's what's so unique about this. When that ship wrecked, we were not supposed to have had that kind of technology. That's what makes this a new part. It should
Just when the
not
ship
exist.
wrecked, but when was it made before
Yeah,
that too?
exactly. How long it had been around. I mean, like I said, they've dated the shipwreck to what, 60 to 70, 70 to 60
Yeah,
BC. So we're talking over 2,000 years. Let's see, that'd be 23 and 60, almost 3,000 years. Yeah, 2023 plus 60 is 2083,
I'm
2,000
letting you do the
BC
math.
years. So almost 3,000 years that it was, well, we'll shave off 100 because it was found in 1901.
Yeah,
But over, 2,000 years almost from the time it sank to the time it was discovered in 1901. This supposedly we did not have the technology. The ancient Greece did not have that kind of technology at that time, is what the mainstream archaeologists and historians would have us believe. But this flies in the face of mainstream because it's a computer existing when there were no such things. First, I'm sure they didn't call it a computer.
oh yeah, no.
You know,
I
I
bet
mean,
they didn't call it an anti-Cytheria mechanism either.
no, they didn't.
That's a lot to
I
say.
mean, if they called it an astrolabe, maybe an advanced astrolabe or something like that, because an astrolabe, is what they use to calculate, navigate with. So, all right, Dagny, what's your next one?
I found the Edwin Smith papyrus really interesting. It's it was discovered in 1862 in Luxor, Egypt, and what it was is a 15 longer than 15-foot long scroll that was written in hieratic, and that's supposedly cursive hieroglyphics.
Oh,
I didn't know that existed, but so it was written really nicely, and it was all about the surgical techniques needed for trauma situations and injuries. And some of the things listed, I went and read like a bunch of what they have, dictated. Man, I mean, it's close to what we do now,
wow.
and it's case by case diagnosis, 48 different traumas or injuries and what to do about them, and prognosis and everything. It's so advanced. And originally they thought that the Egyptians were more like more into mystic and magic
Yeah.
healing, but obviously they had access to things like this, and this is one of a few scrolls that were found like this. But it wasn't until 1930 when they actually learned to translate it that they realized what they actually had.
Wow.
But
I
yeah,
saw
so
I think I saw a doctor talking about that one time.
they actually use for the first time in writing a word for a brain. They describe meninges and cerebral spinal fluid.
Wow.
They're
That's some
really in depth. They're
that,
talking about neurosurgery and things
holy cow. I've seen some of those shows where they found skulls that had brain surgery performed.
that had healed from
Yeah.
brain surgery.
Field
Yeah,
surgery. But I can't, I didn't know you were bringing this up today. But
yeah.
there's a doctor that actually went through that scroll, I think, that pamphlets, and explained a lot of that and said, hey, they had this advanced medicine in ancient Egypt. And of course, again, they weren't supposed to have had that.
Well, it is true that before they were to when they were mummifying a body, they would crack through a little bone in the nose,
Oh, yeah.
go up through the nose, and pull the brain out.
Oh, yeah.
So just for them to know
You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to explain that.
sorry, but just for them to know how to do that takes a lot of
Oh,
understanding.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they obviously knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
Oh, man. Uh, ooh. Yeah, but they were more advanced than we give them credit for.
for sure. Scientifically too.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously knew what they were doing. They had a thriving civilization. Come on. And
Back in the caveman days, if you broke a leg or an arm, that was the end of you.
right, it's just
And
like
they had
an animal.
learned how to fix the body. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, that was there was an anthropologist I was watching one time, and she said that was the first sign of civilization is they found a broken bone that had been mended,
That had healed. Yeah, I remember that.
healed and mended. Yeah.
I remember
So
that.
she said
I
that's
forgot
the
who that
first
woman
sign of
was.
civilization. Yeah, it was a woman. I don't remember her name. I don't remember what show.
I don't either. It was a woman. I was really fascinated by it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. But like, I mean, 'cause she was saying, an animal breaks its leg and it'll just lay there until it's, uh, uh, taken by scavengers or dies starvation or whatever.
And
Uh,
her whole point was that the reason it seemed so intelligent is that it took other people
uh-huh,
helping that person
that's right,
to survive it.
exactly. It
It
was
wasn't
it
just
was
left
mended
alone.
and taken care of, but that person also had to be protected and
Yeah.
cared for by the other.
Dead and yeah.
But Lynn was saying they were certainly not unintelligent. That's true. Um, to Selena's next one, 150,000-year-old pipes. Caves near Mount Baigong in China contain, if I remember correctly, these are iron pipes leading to a lake nearby. The Beijing Institute of Geology dated them to be 150,000 years old. The pipes were analyzed and found to contain 8% unknown material. Some of the pipes were found to actually have some radioactivity on them. So these are pipes. I mean, it's by a lake, So were they piping water up the hill or to the lake or what? I don't know. But supposedly these pipes are 150,000 years old.
It always fascinates me more when they can't figure out the material it's even made from.
Right, right. Yeah, I was watching a little bit on that one this morning too, of those pipes. They didn't have very good pictures on them, though, I'll say that. Um, I was I was training to see the pipe in the picture they have, but I'll take their word for it. Tim's next one is driving through Massachusetts off 495 is both a historical and a mysterious site called the Westward Night. Originally discovered in 1873, the carving on a granite boulder has long been debated as to its origins and authenticity. The carving itself is worn to almost nothing at this time and can really only be seen either in rubbings, which is not allowed anymore due to the damage that could be caused to the rock, or through electronic methods. It is a it is the carving is of a knight in armor with a sword and shield. The images contained on the shield have been identified as to belonging to the Gun clan of Scotland, who reportedly supported the Sinclairs in an expedition to the New World in, get this, 1398. Hmm. The
Surprise,
Sinclairs are,
surprise.
yeah, the Sinclairs are believed to have undertaken this endeavor for the Knights Templar. Some even speculate that the rock could be the burial site of Sir James Gunn, who is known to have died during the expedition. It's interesting that this artifact can also be tied to the Dighton Rock, which we've talked about on this show before, with the Bridgewater Triangle, especially since the images on the rock also contain Templar symbols from around the same time period. You watch Scott Walter's series, America Unearthed, he starts off investigating Templars
Yeah.
and their uh, sigils and symbols being found in the United States. There's only about 40 miles between the two sites, between the Dighton Rock and this image of the night. Because of its possible historical significance, a renewed effort has been undertaken to memorialize the carving and to keep it from deteriorating further. A glass case has been placed over the boulder so that the weather cannot affect the carving. In addition, a bronze statue of a knight lying on the ground has been placed nearby to represent the original carving. Yep, it's not. I mean, this was before Columbus, so it can't be.
No, it doesn't exist.
There were no Europeans here before Columbus, so it couldn't have been him.
Mm.
You know. Anyway,
I did like Scott Walter's show too. That was cool.
Yeah, we started watching his second. Well, what is it? Fourth season or whatever, and he starts going into Bigfoot and aliens, and I'm like, oh, come on,
I haven't gotten there yet.
We were like, when he was actually looking at rocks and things like that, and now he's investigating UFOs. I mean, I'm like, I told Lynn, I said, it sounds to me like he's just trying to keep the show alive,
Well, I'll check it out and see what I think.
Yeah, well, we got Discovery Plus, and I found it on there. I was like, oh yeah, America on Earth, cool. In which I loved his first season. Can't remember now if I've seen the second and third yet, but anyway, I loved the first season where he was tracking down the Templar symbols. That was really cool. Next is the Great Wall of Texas. Now, this one's come under a lot of controversy. In 1852, in what is now known as Rockwall County, Texas, farmers digging a well discovered what appeared to be an ancient rock wall, estimated to be some 200,000 to 400,000 years old. Some say it's a natural formation, while others say it's clearly man-made. Dr. Geisman at the University of Texas in Dallas tested the rocks as part of a History Channel documentary. He found that they were all magnetized the same way, suggesting they were formed where they are and were not moved to that site from elsewhere. But some remain unconvinced by this single TV show test and asked for further studies. Geologist James Shelton and Harvard-trained architect John Lindsay have notated elements. Now, this is what intrigued me. Elements that seem to be of architectural design, including, listen to this, archways, linteled portals, and square openings that resemble windows. So if this happened, if this was formed naturally just by the settling of the rock, how did it form a lintel over a door? How did it form an archway? How did it form a window? There's a lot of questions there. We're not
It's also
saying,
very big.
yes, it's a huge site, and people don't want to. I mean, they're like, no, it's natural. I mean, when they say 200,000 to 400,000 years old, they're like, there's no way. And that's when we recommend Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse show. Go watch that.
Yeah, his theory for that.
Oh, I love that. It's a super civilization. Yeah, it's an awesome series. But also History Mystery, or is it Mystery History on YouTube?
I got it right here. It's Mystery History.
Mystery History. They got some good stuff on there.
I like their stuff.
Yeah, I get frustrated with them. Since I do videos and things like that for work and for here, I get a little frustrated watching them because you don't know what's going on a lot of times. They don't really have a format. I mean, they'll be talking about one thing, and then all of a sudden it'll change and it'll be somebody else talking, and they'll be talking about something else. But if you can sit through a history mystery video or mystery history video, they've got some good stuff there.
I liked them. I like the Mystery History.
All right, Dagny, what's your next one?
I want to talk about the schist disc. I'm not swearing.
Careful how you say that. This is a family show, by the way, so be careful.
Takes a lot of work from me. So this one, I went to many different sites reading about this one. historydefined.net gave me a really good description of it because I figured it'd be good to describe it, but I couldn't put it into words. So it's a 1 centimeter thick, 24-inch diameter disc made out of lamellar minerals. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically out of mica, chlorite, talc, hornblende, graphite. Very, very, very fragile, brittle material.
Yeah.
Very, very thinly made. The craftsmen today still don't understand how they made it because of what it would take to create this thing. But it's resembling a plate or concave steering wheel of a car. It has 3 cuts or curved shovels
Oh,
that resemble a helix of a boat. And in the center is an opening with a collar that would appear to function as a receptacle of some axis of a wheel or other unknown mechanism, perhaps a central hub designed to fit onto a wooden pole. That's what James Coffey described it as on
Well, I've
History
seen that.
Defined.
It looks to me like a boat propeller with a ring around it.
We still
But
have no idea what it does. It was discovered
oh,
in 1936 in Prince Sabu's tomb in the village of Saqqara, that same place that I found the other
yeah.
interesting artifacts from. And we've still just guessed to what its use was, but it was found in this tomb, and a couple different people have taken stabs at what it could possibly be.
Mhm.
And one YouTuber, Johanna James, she had interviewed someone that told her a story of a time when these archaeologists had it out and they tested it with spinning it. And when they spun it, they said the sound and the resonance it made allowed for anti-gravity. They could lift the big objects with it.
Weird.
So they're wondering if this is some kind of a anti-gravity device that they used in Egypt to lift large objects, but that's just a hearsay story
Yeah.
that she was told. Other people have tested it for mixing beer, that it's good for mixing beer so it doesn't let the bubbles
Okay.
advance too soon or something like that. And then some people think maybe it was a lazy Susan or
Yeah.
maybe a water pump or maybe a water propulsion device.
Well, I can see they look kind of like impellers, but from what I remember, they were the 3 fins on it basically were folded straight in. They weren't, on most propellers and impellers and things like that, the
They're
fins
on
are yeah, they're all angled the same direction, but these are not. But to me, it looks like I said earlier, like a boat propeller with a ring around it.
yeah.
And those 3 fins are bent in over toward the middle with this ring going around the outside. I mean, I can't see where it would circulate air, like a fan,
So
because
they discovered it in 1936, but they estimated that it was created around 3000 BCE.
wow,
So the invention of the wheel wasn't until 1640 BCE.
yeah,
Much, much, much later.
yeah. So
And here
yeah,
we are
so
with
it
this wheel
wasn't a
thing.
wheel of any kind, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with a wheel, and that's that. I mean, to me, what makes this an OOP art is the fact that we don't have a clue what it was used for.
It's the only one we've ever found.
Right,
No
it's the
clue.
only one ever found. It may have been that Pharaoh's kids some kind of toy that he made for him or something. I don't know. Um, and how many of you heard of the Baghdad batteries? Wilhelm Koenig discovered these artifacts in 1933 just outside of Baghdad, Iraq. They are clay jars with asphalt toppers and iron rods made some 2,000 years ago. They have been proven to generate more than a volt of electricity. These artifacts are one of a kind and considered an enigma. because they were not supposed to have electricity back then. It was not supposed to exist. But they have replicated these because the ones they found were the clay pots were smashed and broken. But they knew that they had asphalt toppers. They had iron rods down inside, and some of what I remember they were wrapped in copper. And when they um, you know replicated them, when they did, it would store electricity as a battery. Especially when you fill it with water. You fill it with water, just like a car battery. The car battery initiates the electrical charge in a car battery. You got the lead and the acid and that kind of thing. And this is just the same concept in a Baghdad battery. The
Nice.
Baghdad battery, 2,000 years old. Hmm. They were not supposed to have had that back then. All right. The next one I want to talk about is another one of my favorites. I love OopArts. I mean,
Me too.
I've been wanting to do this show for a while. I watch every show I can on OopArts. I love OopArts, but the Piri Reis map. This is so freaking cool.
This one's cool.
This was created by a Turkish admiral and cartographer Piri Reis in 1513, but he sourced this map from other maps, earlier maps. And if you look down on the lower portion of this map, well, over on if you're looking straight on it on the left hand side, you see the coast of South America. All right. And we've been told, and I was watching another one this morning, how accurate it shows where the Andes Mountains are at. I mean, it shows, yeah, that side of the map is completely accurate, but at the bottom, it's connected to another landmass. Well, I mean, we look at our globe today, and the continent of South America just tapers off to a point with a little hook on the bottom of it, little islands down there. It says this landmass is shown to jut out from the southern coastline of South America. Captain Lorenzo Burrows, a U.S. Air Force captain in the cartographic section. I'm
You
having
got all the
trouble with
hard
the
work
big words.
today.
I'm having trouble with the big words today. U.S. Air Force captain in the cartographic section wrote a letter to Charles Hapgood in 1961 saying that this landmass seems to accurately show Antarctica's coast under the ice. Now, Dr. Hapgood was one of the first to publicly suggest that the Piri Reis map depicts Antarctica during a prehistoric time. He was a Harvard-educated historian whose theories about geological shifts earned the admiration of Albert Einstein. He hypothesized that the landmass shifted, explaining why Antarctica is shown as connected to South America. Modern studies refute Hapgood's theory that such a shift could have taken place within thousands of years, but they show that it could have happened within millions of years. So, how did Piri Reis know about this? If this happened, if this was when the continents were Antarctica and South America were connected, how did he know this? Well, he got it from earlier maps. How did they know it? How did they get it so accurate? I mean, how many of you have seen the old maps of North America that showed Florida, as big as Mexico? You know, I mean, they were just so off kilter. The map making was not that great, but Piri Reis nailed it when it came to South America. Everything there, and
Even
there
the
is.
animals and the rivers he put in there
Oh
makes sense.
yeah, and then down in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a paragraph of writing. Not that angled writing. It's like a little paragraph over on the left, little red headline on it. It's talking about um, Antarctica and telling about the snow and the ice and that kind of thing. But it's showing an accurate representation of the coastline of Antarctica. Wow. Okay, Dagny, what's your next one?
I'm out of them right now.
Oh, we're done.
You got the
We're
rest of the
done. And you can't get into these, so you just talk about let's say that's oh, Selena had one, a 2,000-year-old earthquake detector. Oh, I've seen this one. This is so cool. Zhang Hing created the world's first seismoscope in 132 AD. It's still a mystery exactly how it works. However, replicas have worked with a precision comparable to modern instruments. In 138 AD, it correctly indicated that an earthquake had occurred about 300 miles west of Luoyang. Now, how in 132 AD did they have the knowledge? And so here's what bugs me. Mainstream archaeology thinks these our ancient ancestors were so stupid. These guys were smart, super intelligent. There may have been your idiots, just like we got idiots today, but we also had these geniuses. This guy built a seismoscope in 132 AD, right at 2,000 years ago, and it worked. Wow, that's amazing. All right, let me go to another one of Tim's. The Roman, and I have trouble saying this. A It's AUID, Oid, Oid,
Oud.
Albanian. Uh, this one I've seen before. An archaeological dig near Aoud, Romania in 1973 revealed an artifact of unknown origins. It is a piece of aluminum approximately 8 inches long, 5 inches wide, and 2 inches thick. It resembles what some say is an axe. Now, the basic shape is, but I've never seen an axe
No,
with
it's a little bit off.
ears on the end. However, it is the age of the artifact that truly confuses the scientific world. When discovered, it was found near fossilized bones. The mastodon bones dated to about 250,000 years ago.
What? Okay.
However, some recent scientists have tried to claim the aluminum object is only between 400 and 80,000 years old. That's
So
a
it could
pretty
have
huge
just
amount of time.
coincidentally been by these fossilized
Yeah, well,
bones.
here's the thing. This is aluminum. Aluminum is not
That
found naturally and is
that's what
actually a
freaked me out when you
combination.
first said it.
Yeah, it's actually a combination of other compounds, and the manufacturing process requires the heat of at least 1,000 degrees. And it's only been in the last 100 years that the technology to produce aluminum has truly been successful. Now, some think it resembles a man-made tool; others think it resembles a strut off of a lunar capsule or a Viking space probe. And there is the theory that it is the piece of an alien spacecraft. Considering the depth and the fact that it was found alongside fossils, some of these theories can be easily ruled out. Now, I've heard some people say that it looks uh, like the landing pad of a lunar module. I don't see that. I mean, I see why they might say that, but again, what I said earlier, we're looking at this from our point of view. You know, we're not able to get in the minds of people that created this. What did it say? 250,000 years ago. It was found next to mastodon bones that were
That had
fossilized.
fossilized.
Yes, they were fossilized 250,000 years ago, and this was found in the same place,
And I
same
just
level.
I just looked it up. It wasn't until 1825 that Danish chemist Hans Christian Ørsted
There you
uh,
go.
discovered aluminum. It's
There you
not
go.
found in nature.
Hmm. Yeah. So how wild is that? You know. So all right. Let me see. I think we got one more. Now these have intrigued me. I was actually looking for something else when I found these, and I remembered I've seen these before. But the ancient stone balls of Costa Rica, these stone spheres of Costa Rica, are an assortment of over 300 petrospheres in Costa Rica, located on the Dique Delta on the Isla del Caño. Locally, they are known as Las Bolas, or literally the balls. The spheres are commonly attributed to the extinct decay culture and are sometimes referred to as the decay spheres. They are the best known stone cultures of the Isthmo-Columbian era. They are thought to have been placed in lines along the approach to the House of Chiefs, but their exact significance remains uncertain. Now, here's what's wild. The spheres range in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters, over 6.5 feet in diameter, and weigh up to 15 tons. Most are sculpted from gabbro, the coarse grained equivalent of basalt, There are over a dozen or so made from shell-rich limestone and another dozen made from sandstone. They appear to have been made by hammering natural boulders with other rocks and then polishing with sand. The degree of finishing and precision of working varies considerably. The gabbro came from sites in the hills, several kilometers away from where the finished spheres are found, though some unfinished spheres remain in the hills. The spheres were discovered in the 1930s as the United Fruit Company was clearing the jungle for banana plantations. Workmen pushed them aside with bulldozers and heavy equipment, damaging some of them. Additionally, inspired by stories of hidden gold, workmen began to drill holes into the spheres and blow them open with sticks of dynamite. Some of the dynamited spheres have been reassembled and are currently on display at the National Museum of Costa Rica in San Jose. Now, there's what did I say, 300 of them? Around 300?
Yeah.
Yeah, over 300. Can you imagine how many there would be if, they'd been left?
We hadn't messed with them.
Yeah, and some of them are practically perfect spheres. Now, they're saying, oh, they beat them with stones. How did they make, come on. I mean, these things
I
are
understand
just
that things like
amazing.
that I understand that things like that can be done by hand, but what confuses me is when we go and talk about these megalithic things that are created. I mean, 300 of them done by hand. I mean, it's not the same as, oh, someone made
Oh,
one ball.
right.
They
I'll
spent a
tell you how
lot of
long.
time and energy on that.
Exactly. There's a lot of time and expertise.
Yeah.
Somebody knew what they were doing to make these perfect spheres. Now, some of them are not perfect. They find some of them unfinished. But that's the thing. These things are sitting out there unexplained. They don't know why they're there, you know?
I
And
keep
then
hearing rumors that giants may have existed. What if those were the giants' toys? They were playing
playing
marbles.
marbles. Giants playing marbles. Could be. It could
Mhm.
be. So, Dagny, what are your thoughts, suppositions, final thoughts?
Oof. Well, what it comes down to in my head is that I believe that we are completely wrong about what we think history is. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe humans have gotten advanced technologically and other ways many, many, many times over history
Hmm.
and just repeated the whole process.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do like Graham Hancock's theory. Um,
The
but
super
I mean,
civilization?
but I just feel like we have not, we don't know as much as we think.
No, we don't. And again, I use that term mainstream archaeology. There are some archaeologists that are open to listen and to talk and to wonder and to question. But, the thing with OopArts is it leaves questions. It flies in the face of accepted history. These things should not exist. Now, I think they exist for a couple of different reasons. One, like you said, we've had advanced civilizations on this planet before, but for whatever reason they died out. Graham Hancock talks about that on Ancient Apocalypse. There's one YouTuber, I can't remember her name right now, but she feels like that we've been through 6 or 7 of these super civilizations that will die out and disappear, and then another rises up after. And that we're number 6 or number 7. I don't know. She never explained where she came up with that, but that could be it. I mean, we didn't go over some of these that look like a wristwatch found in thousands of year old rock. What looks like a cell phone found, embedded in something
Or
it shouldn't be.
what looks like an astronaut on a sarcophagus lid. Or
Exactly. And see, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. What we see these things and we think, oh, that looks like a cell phone. That looks like an astronaut. And that's probably my only, I love the Ancient Aliens TV show, but that's my only problem with it. George Tsoukalos is saying, well, that's an astronaut. Look, you can see it right there. He's got the helmet, and they show a picture of an astronaut. And certainly it looks similar. But when they were drawing that, they weren't drawing an astronaut. They were drawing something they had seen.
We
We're
can't.
looking at it. Yeah, we're looking at it from our point of view. We've got to remember that they had a totally different point of view. When they were drawing that helicopter, they weren't drawing a helicopter. We look at it and we think it's a helicopter, but they weren't.
Yeah,
You
they
know?
may have been drawing something we don't know existed at all.
Exactly. And just in our purview, in our point of view, we see it as something that we're familiar with, you know. And just because we see something we're familiar with does not mean that's what it is. It looks similar, and that's my only takeaway from this is we see a London hammer. What if that was something else?
Yeah.
My other thought is, yes, this could have been advanced civilizations. Well, where'd the rest of their civilization go? I don't know. Nobody knows. That's why we're finding these OopArts, out of place artifacts, is because we're only finding bits and pieces. We're not finding a whole civilization. Of course, you come across places like Pumapunku and some of these ancient sites. There to me, that's evidence of an advanced civilization. How did they build some of these? You know, and they're saying, well, hammer and chisel. Oh, come on. You know, some of these. I mean, I know there are artisans out there that can do that, but on such a grand scale, there had to be something.
There
Some
had
of
to be
those
more.
some of those rocks that were not chiseled, they looked like they were melted and set in place, at different angles and curves. You know, again, I'm not an expert, and I'm not a geologist. I'm not a sculptor. I don't know, but it just seems a little bit beyond belief. I mean, you're asking me to believe in aliens if you're making me believe that somebody did that with a hammer and chisel. It's to me, it's the same extremity, you know.
Yeah.
And then we're called racist because we think that aliens did this, that our ancestors weren't smart enough to do that. No, that's not being racist. And I got a little blog I'm working on about that right there because I've actually heard that term used in relation to some of these ancient civilizations. You
Wow.
know, well, when you say it's aliens, then you're being racist because they weren't smart enough. Excuse me. No, our ancestors, our ancient ancestors, were extremely intelligent, and like I said earlier, they had their idiots just like we do, but they had their extreme geniuses as well. But another aspect that I've never heard spoken about, and of course, on this show we talk about the strange and the unusual and the odd and the weird, paranormal. And so that's where this theory goes. I'm taking it out there. You ready?
Oh boy.
Different dimensions. What if these are crossover artifacts from other dimensions?
Interesting.
How did they get in the coal? Well, maybe there was a vortex opened right there and something slipped through where it didn't belong. That
Interesting.
drill bit embedded in the coal, a vortex or a portal floated through and a drill bit got dropped off in the coal where it was supposed to be. Now that one is out there, it's outlandish. But if we're considering aliens, if we're considering again, if some of these things can be done with hammer and chisel, to me that's an
Might as
extreme.
well go to other dimensions.
Might as well. We have a vortex. I mean, it could be. Who knows? But then of course we also have to remember that some of these artifacts uh, aren't millions of years old, like the main penny or the Westford Knight. The some of these things, the Antikythera mechanism, they don't claim to be that old, but they don't line up with taught history. they shouldn't, they don't fit up in the timeline. You know, that doesn't fit there. So let's just ignore it. And that's the way, uh, our history books have been.
I think I want to go get some history books from all different countries on world history and
Yeah,
see what each country has to say about it.
that would be cool. That would be cool. But that's just my thoughts. I mean, that the thing about the vortex and the portals is just another theory. That's not saying that I believe that. I'm
It's the,
saying why not?
it's the most believable theory to me right now.
it, you know, I mean, because I've always believed that either our ancestors, our ancient ancestors, were extremely, extremely advanced, more advanced than we are to be able to do some of this, and they died out, or they had outside help. Now, whether that means aliens, extraterrestrials, I don't know. I mean, there seems to be some evidence leaning toward that. But at the same time, they had to do it. So even if they did have outside help, they had to do it. They did it. We have, you know, records of where they did it. I mean, there are some things that we don't have explanation for. How did they get those 20-ton uh, megaliths for Stonehenge from the mountains 20, 30 miles away? I don't know. They didn't have the technology.
Time travel, maybe?
I, vortex?
Vortex?
Open up a vortex in the mountain and a vortex down there on Stonehenge. Push it through. We're done. Hey, a wormhole. I mean, it could be. I don't know. I mean, but they were either super advanced, like Graham Hancock says, a super civilization. Which again, if you haven't seen Ancient Apocalypse, that is awesome. I love that show,
Definitely.
that series. Can't wait till he does the second season. But I follow him on Facebook too, and he has some great stuff. He actually liked one of my comments the other day.
Nice.
I made a comment on, I don't remember what it was now, but that's a good one. And the mystery history, and these are fun topics, and of course, there are thousands of these OopArts out there. There's no way we could cover them all.
Oh,
And
God.
yeah, there's no. So before we go, please remember to like this
Like and
episode,
subscribe.
subscribe. She got it. That's what she says, and and share it. Like I said, in the next day or two, this episode will be on Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Stitcher. Did I get them all?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Yeah, I did. Spotify, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Pandora, and iHeartRadio. There are other platforms we could go to, but right now, I just
That seems like
that's a
enough
lot.
for now.
So,
That's a lot.
all right, Dagny, thank you for being here. Thank you for the research. Those are some good stuff.
Thank you for doing the show, Tom. I'm thrilled. I love doing this with you.
Well, I appreciate it. I enjoy it when you're on here. We coming up when we don't have a set schedule yet, but we're trying. Since I have my weekends free again now, we're trying to get back on a 2-week schedule and do it on Sunday afternoons now. But here's what we're looking for coming up for season 6: Appalachian cryptids, uh, Route 66, Strange Highway. What's another one we talked about? Oh, my mind's going blank right now, but we got some good stuff coming up. And so y'all stay tuned. Check with us, and we will be back in 2 weeks. We're getting back on our regular schedule. So y'all stay safe on your strange journeys. Bye bye.